Hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 15th day of July, 2024. Well, I hope you had a good weekend. It was really hot here. I stayed in as much as I could. But we picked a couple of zucchini and they were good. So that was fun. That's starting up now. We've got a bunch of zucchini plants. Most of it'll go to the chickens, so we actually a lot of our garden, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of our garden goes for the chickens. We plant them basically for them. So we like them to have fresh produce. And if you got to go buy it, well, that's, for 20 some chickens, that's a little, between that and the chicken feed, that's cost prohibitive. So I don't know. We just grow it. So anyway, let's take a look at the rune from the Elder Futhark for the above side here, the higher self side. We have Laguz. Laguz is essentially about flow. It's let's see what it's the 21st rune of the Elder Futhark, and so technically, or I would say not technically, but essentially, I view it as flow from spirit. If you're empathic, you can use it in a visualization technique where you're dissolving the channels that happen, the energetic channels happen between you and the world, essentially. Uh, and especially between you and vampiric energy. Some people really have vampiric energy. They are difficult people to begin with. Some of them could be, sociopathic. But people that like to manipulate and all of that, they tend to have very vampiric energy. It's very sticky. If you're empathic at all, you get around people and you just don't feel right. You feel really uncomfortable. Well, that's what you're picking up on. And in a visualization technique with Laguz, you can use it as a magical hook to pull your energy back. You can visualize all of the connections between you and everything else. And it just happens, right? You don't necessarily intend for it to, but say you have a friend who's in need, who's upset or needs something that, and they want to come and talk to you because you're the one in their life that will talk to them about stuff like that, or that they trust. Well, that could be a type of vampiric energy, but it's not negative. It's just, or somebody that's just, I've had people just stop and talk to me in the grocery store, in the checkout lines. Not so much since COVID, but before that, total strangers just start telling me their life story. It's like, okay, they need that, so fine. But that's an energetic connection you've made with that person. And so every day you really, if you are empathic, I mean, everybody is to a certain extent, but some of us are more so than others. Just like some of us are more intuitive than others. Everyone has this. Everyone does this because you're a soul. In these bodies, you've created these bodies to have this experience with. So that's what that is. It's an astral type of an energy. So you should really every day do a short meditation where you visualize all of those energetic connections dissolving. Some people call it cutting cords. I just think that sounds harsh. So I just say, well, let's let all this intend for all this to dissolve, and then use Laguz, visualize that as this hook to bring all of your energy back to you. That's yours and yours alone, and start fresh, right? So that's one way to look at Laguz. So you can then say, from that, you can say that it's a purification rune, a cleansing rune. Let's see, what else might it be? To rebalance your emotions, things like that. But really, you're drawing higher self into that experience so that governs the experience instead of the ego. So that's going to start us out today with on the higher self side of things. Let's take a look at the Geomancy rune for the below side, or the physical reality or ego side. I'll put these in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. Looks like we have Fortuna Major. Fortuna Major is greater fortune. Its complement is Fortuna Minor, which is lesser fortune. Lesser fortune would be progressive success, whereas Fortuna Major, is this it here? Yeah. Fortuna Major would be the success at the end of things, the outcome, the successful outcome, the big paycheck, maybe, if it's financial in nature. The type of individual, though, that this describes is somebody that maybe has a little more ego about them. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe it motivates them to succeed, for example. It could be somebody who micromanages. And so when you're dealing with this idea of motivation to succeed and all of that, you want to allow spirit to flow into that process. Excuse me, higher self or higher awareness to flow into that process so that you keep a better balance with that. It's not necessarily saying, oh, you're going to have, success is going to flow to you today. Well, it may. But again, if it is, there's a higher self component to that, if it does. But let's look at the cards and see if they can define this a little bit more for us today. I've already shuffled a bit, as I do to get started. I think a lot of tarot readers do that. They just start shuffling, and it relaxes them, Or maybe they'll take their cards and they'll put them in order. If they do readings that include reversals, then maybe they want to restart the deck where it's all one way before all upright before they go and switch it around. And so that's another thing you can do it for. It's just a way to relax. I don't know. Or you might want to put them in order, all of the suits in order, all the major arcana in order and all that. That's always fun to do. So I've cut the deck, taken the lower half. And I mean, this is a, gosh, did we have one just like this? Let me look here real quick. We did. We had last Monday, for the cards, we had the 10 of Wands, which we have today, only we had the 7 of Wands that day, and here we have the 4, and then we also have the 3 of Pentacles, which is what we have today. Now that, so this could be having something to do with allowing spirit to flow into your ability to manifest, success, essentially. Let's take a look at, well, let's do the numerology first before I get ahead of myself. So that's kind of interesting. So Laguz is the 21st rune, so that's going to be a 3 numerology. I'm just going to do it that way. And then we've got 10, which reduces to 1. We've got 4. And we have 3. That comes to 11. So yeah, the idea of 11 being the master number for awakening and illumination and enlightenment, that's a very high vibratory rune, or high vibratory number, I should say, not rune. So you're looking at, that's reinforcing the idea of letting spirit flow into your manifestation of success today. And keeping that higher vision about yourself when you're doing it. Here we have the 10 of Wands. The 10 of Wands is, in fact, let me just be sure before I get started here on this, and I'll do it 21 plus 10. Every time I do this in my head, then I risk, right? 3 equals 38, which is 11. Okay. So yes, definitely 11. Lower vibrational number of that is 2. If you were to add 1 and 1 together, I don't with master numbers. I leave them alone. But on the lower side of things, it would be a 2 numerology, which is balance and love and unity and reciprocity. It could be decisions. But the decisions you would make here would be to allow spirit to inform what you're doing and keep your vibration high when you're making decisions about things. So that's how you would see it that way. But here we start with the 10 of Wands. We see a man carrying 10 staffs, if you will, with life still growing from them. Now, this can be, he's headed in the direction of what appears to be his home. He's on the other side of this dual line. You see the dual line in some of the tarot cards, not all of them. Most of them you don't. But to me, it sort of talks about, 2 different experiences or 2 different times, but they're different from one another. And here he's been out away from the home, making his way, and either he's leaning forward because he's carrying a heavy burden, but at the same time, or a lot of staffs at least, so it could be a little bit heavy. But he's not looking where he's going because he knows the way home, is how I see that. Now, with 10, you kind of have the idea of endings and beginnings. You have a little more of endings with the 9, the number 9, but with 10, it reduces to 1, and 1 is new beginnings. That's one of the concepts behind the number 1. it's talent, it's leadership, it's the self, but it also portends new beginnings. If you turn it on its side, you have a skewed version of Degas, where this is the end of one phase and this is the beginning of a new lucrative one. With wands, you're talking about motivation and initiation, creativity, opportunities. And so he could simply be bringing home as an entrepreneur either potential jobs he could apply for or the work that's come his way to tell his family, we're going to have some success here. And so he has a new beginning possibly of some success in terms of his work. And again, trusting the process would be a little bit of higher self saying to do that, right? So in a sense, spirit is flowing to him with Laguz in order that he can then manifest that into something successful for himself and his family. Here we have the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands is an interesting card. Now, again, you see that same dual line here. Here's where the marriage took place, or maybe they're walking over to do it. But here it's possible it's already taken place. Four is a number of structure, of responsibility, of reliability. And so relating it to here, to this card, he's essentially got himself in a position where he can be one of the two people that can support the family or the couple at this point, and then the family later on if they choose to have kids. But here you have this is probably these are probably royal people, because you see the castle in the background. You can see the guests over here for the wedding. They're holding their bouquets high. There's three of them. He's holding two, she's holding one, or vice versa. And you're uniting emotion with will here. Emotion being represented by the blue drape, and will by the red. So this would be the water element versus the fire element. But here up above you have the two garlands, and there you can't really see it very well because you're not looking at it from below or above, from right underneath it or right above it. But there it's actually crossed. And so in the Elder Futhark, the X rune is Gebo, and that's balanced energy exchange. It's partnership. It's a link. It's between things. It's between people. It's relationships. It's and again, marriage and partnership. But it's the gift of reciprocity that we share with one another, having that balanced energy exchange with somebody else in our lives, and having that provides its own sense of structure. And so we could have actually started out with the four, but at the same time, maybe this is just a break in things. We don't have to necessarily look at this in order. So probably when I ultimately read it, I'm going to start with the four and then go to the 10, and then go to the 3. Or the 10 could come after the 3. It doesn't really matter, but we'll start it that way. So here they get married, and they're planning their future together in balanced energy exchange with each other. I mean, you could, in a sense, if you want to look at this as polarities, right? They've each balanced their own polarity within, and now they're able to come together in harmony with one another. You could say it that way. Here you have again. Now he's bringing home all these opportunities to his new family, essentially his new life with this other person. And then from here's how he makes his way. He's a mason. Maybe he's somebody who builds things for other people, creates things for other people. And here you have a couple of people that are coming by to admire his work. Pentacles again is about money. It's about physical reality. It's the earth element. So, all of that plus education, tradition, inheritance. It's a very Othala, which is the 24th rune of the Elder Futhark, type of an experience when you look at pentacles. Because that's essentially the same thing: prosperity, security, material security. And here he's actually employing all the opportunities he's brought home here, and this is one of them. This is what it's going to look like for him. And this 3 is also about integration. It's about mind, body, spirit balance. It's about communication and interaction. And he's interacting with the people here. So whatever this actually, if this is in fact describing what this is going to look like, then part of what he's going to be doing is going to be interacting with other people in his ability to then sell his own product that he has, and which is his work essentially, his ability to create and build and shape things in a way that manifest a positive future for himself. And so I think that today what this could mean for someone listening is the idea that flowing from spirit will help you manifest your reality, manifest your material security, manifest your success in a way that is a little more secure, especially with the idea of the Four of Wands here being all about structure and foundation and security and that physical structure around you. That's, like you think about the four corners of your home, you want all those to be very strong and everything else as well, right? To keep the house upright and not crashing in on you one night or something. And so the idea of structure around you, and having the structure and the physical and the foundation of having a relationship, a partnership with somebody else, and then the family that can flow from that, if that's what you want to do. If you don't, then you still have that foundational structure between you and your partner. So whether this is a marriage partnership or whether it's it's actually representing maybe a partnership with somebody else in terms of a business you want to open, that foundation is going to be very strong. The reciprocity between the two people will be there to strengthen all of that. And you have the three bouquets that they're holding, which also aligns with the three here and the three people. Maybe it's essentially relating to that, where you will interact with other people and sell your work, essentially sell what you can do to them. You're in other words, it's like the Eight of Pentacles, where the guy's out away from the town and he's sitting there on his bench and he's creating, well, they're coins essentially, but whatever it is he's doing, and then you can see them all stacked up on the post there for people to see as they come by, and he's essentially displaying what he can do for other people. Well, in a sense, he's doing the same thing here with the three. He's out there in the town, and people walk by, they see it, and they think it's good work. They talk to him. They essentially interview him, if you will, get an idea, a feel for who he is and the type of person he is. But we already know that he's already somebody that wants a lot of structure in his life, and he's not afraid to take on a lot of work, essentially, because he knows in the end he's going to be successful. And here it's just all playing out for him. And I think that that's really what the reading is saying, that if you flow in, if you let higher self flow into whatever you're doing here today, or in the future here, as if you're trying to either find another job at another place, it could be something like that, or maybe you're thinking about opening your own business, or you have to figure out, how am I going to make myself successful? Well, just doing it from the standpoint of ego is not going to necessarily get you what you want. You need to have higher self flow into all of that, so that you vibrate from a level of awakening and enlightenment and illumination with the overall numerology of the master number 11 here. And let that be your guide, basically, instead of just cutting corners or taking the easy way out to get the money, and the really quick, that type of, I mean, we've all done business with people that are like that, or hopefully we haven't all had that experience, because it's not very much fun. But when you do, you realize at the end of it, you've paid somebody for work that really wasn't quality. And if you're somebody, and we've done that, and thought the person was good, you had references, all that kind of stuff, right? Or it could be something where you literally don't know, and you call around and you talk to people, maybe you get estimates or whatever, and you ultimately have to choose one, right? Well, maybe you end up choosing the wrong one. The guy was, maybe charismatic, acted like, the way they talked or whatever. It sounded good, sounded like you could trust him. And then in the final analysis, after the job's done and he's gone, maybe a year or two later or whatever, maybe not even that long, everything's breaking. and you realize that you got caught with somebody who wasn't who they said they were. And so allowing higher self to flow into this type of an experience will hopefully guard against that sort of tendency of some people to do that to others, because that's what they're doing. They're doing it to others. I know someone who was hired this contractor, red flags all the way, but they didn't pay any attention, and because they felt like, well, I got a contract with the guy, you know. So ultimately they had to fire him. I think they went to court. You know, it was one of those situations. They had to get somebody else to finish the house for them. And I don't know what happened after that. I just know about the early part of it with the contractor that was shady, and in that case he was, he was not somebody they should have hired. But it was just one of those things, you know. Sometimes it all looks and sounds fine. And if they provide references and all of that, well, I mean, they could be all manufactured, right? And so if you're somebody who's going to work for other people, you have to make sure that your ego is not driving the experience. And that's what today's Master 11 numerology for the whole reading, I think, is sort of putting that umbrella over the whole situation. Allow higher spirit to flow in. Make sure that you're on the track to success in a way that is responsible and practical with the Four of Wands, where there's a meeting of the minds basically between you and your prospective customers, that you're willing to from there you have all of this potential opportunities that have come your way to do well for people. And again, doing well for people and having that mindset, that's a higher self mindset to have. That's not an egoic one. Ego is like, oh, well, let's just get as much as we can and, you know, we'll move on, right? Well, that's not a higher self type of a mindset, in my opinion. And so from there, then you have this very comfortable lifestyle you're building where, you know, you can have these wonderful conversations while others come by to admire your work, and, you know, your work basically sells itself, essentially. That's where you want to get in a situation like this, instead of always having to clamor for things because, you know, you're trying to stay one step ahead of having to go back and fix things that you messed up, right? You don't want to be that kind of a contractor, if that's what this is, or that type of a independent business owner. That's not going to necessarily make you successful. In other words, what makes you successful is being able to see the broader picture, valuing the foundation that you're building with customers who will then talk to other people and say, hey, you know what? I had that kind of work done, and this is who I had do it, and I recommend them highly. That's the kind of feedback you want to end up having from your customers. And so that comes from a place of higher self. It doesn't come from a place of ego. And so I think here we have a run on the fire element here. So, you know, the exercise of will from a higher perspective. That's what's going to keep the will in line and not let the ego get in the way and take over and make you do things that maybe you might, if you really sat down and thought about the long-term effect on things, right, of decisions like that. Well, you know, you're going to see that that's not going to work for you, right? And so stay true to your purpose, stay true to your higher self, and exercise your will in a way that comes together in unity with others and sees the value of the work that you've got for yourself, so that you don't overextend yourself in a way that you cannot meet the goals and the deadlines you've set with your customers. I've known people like that they get so much going. I knew a painter like that. He gets so much going. He didn't finish anything. And he's got all these people that have paid money down on projects he's doing for them, and he can't fulfill any of it. And so then, you know, then the lawsuits start, and then the chatter starts. I mean, it's really not the way to go. And again, many of us have seen these things unfold. And so we see that it's not workable. So I think that for today's reading, again, you know, if this resonates for you in a way that because you've got a business or you're starting one or whatever, just remember that have that higher vision to what you do, and make sure that you do things in a way that are responsible and practical, and and are going to actually be able to sustain you going forward. And how you sustain yourself is the relationship that you build with the customers that you have. And are they people that are going to refer you to other people, or are they going to say, oh, no, don't go there, you know? So that's a difference between managing all this from a higher perspective and managing it from a lower perspective, from the ego's perspective. Okay. So I think that's really what the reading is about for today. And if it resonates, great. If not, hang on to the idea of it, and maybe it will at some other time. So anyhow. Well, I think that's it for the reading. Over at Stepping Aside, my website, my blog over there at Stepping Aside, the address there is imsteppingaside.com. The stuff has come up on there yesterday in the midnight hour, in the morning, early morning hour of midnight on Sunday morning is when I publish everything. Everything's out on the blog, the forecasts for the week, the astrological overview, the correspondences for work and magic, and one of the last couple of, in fact, I think I only have 2 left on my Exploring Tarot series, and then I'll be on to something else, but maybe herbs, I don't know, we'll see. But that's all out, and if you read this stuff over on Patreon, Medium, or Substack, it's out over there as well. And so, but I'd love you to check out the blog over at Stepping Aside. It's just a witch and herbalism blog. I really like it. I'm happy with, I've made some changes to it a little bit, a while back. Not, I don't know, in the last year or so, it looks a little bit different than it did before. I do that periodically. I'll change a different theme or something and give it a refresh or something, or freshening up or something. And I like the way it is right now, though. And so I may leave it that way for the foreseeable future. Because it's scary to go and change all that stuff. It's like, oh God, is it going to work, you know? And anyway, so go check the blog out. I'd love you to do that. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe here. Please do. And come back again on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.